Everybody knows about GMOs, genetically modified organisms. They are in the food we eat, the vitamin supplements we take. They make up the plants that are used to materialize our clothes, and they even take the place of real chicken and Tyson chicken nuggets. But what if I told you that you could develop your own GMO, that you could choose the physical makeup of your very own child? Sound crazy? Humans have been engineering life for thousands of years through selective breeding. We strengthened useful traits in plants and animals. We became very good at it, but never fully understood how it worked until we discovered the code of life, DNA, a complex molecule that guides the growth, development, function, and reproduction of everything alive. Information is encoded on the structure in the molecule. 4 nucleotides are paired and make up a code that carries instructions. Change the instructions, you change the being carrying it. As soon as DNA was discovered, people tried to tinker with it. In the 60s, scientists bombarded plants with radiation to cause random mutations in the genetic code. The idea was to get a useful plant variation by pure change. In the 17th, scientists inserted DNA snippets into bacteria, plants, and animals to study and modify them for research, medicine, agriculture, and for fun. The earliest genetically modified animal was born in 1974, making mice a standard tool for research, saving millions. In the 80s, the first patent was given for a microbe engineered to absorb oil. Today, we produce many chemicals by means of engineered life, like life-saving clotting factors, growth hormones, and insulin. All things we had to harvest from the organs of animals before that.
This is your waistline.
The first food modified in the lab went on sale in 1994, the Flavor Saver tomato. A tomato given a much longer shelf life, where an extra gene that suppressed the buildup of a rotting enzyme. In the 90s, there was also a brief foray into human engineering. To treat maternal infertility, babies were made that carried genetic information from 3 humans, making them the first humans ever to have 3 genetic parents. Today, there are super muscled pig, fast-growing salmon, featherless chicken, and see-through frogs. On the fun side, we made things glow in the dark. Fluorescent zebrafish are available for as little as $10 at the store. With a revolutionary new technology called CRISPR, the cost of this engineering have shrunk by 99%. Instead of a year, it takes a few weeks to conduct experiments, and basically everybody with a lab can do it. It's hard to get across how big of a technological advancement CRISPR is. It has the potential to change human life forever. The CRISPR revolution began when scientists figured out that it is programmable. You can just give it a copy of your DNA you want to modify and put it into a living cell. It's precise, cheap, and easy. CRISPR can even edit live cells. In 2015, scientists used CRISPR to cut the HIV virus out of living cells. Only about a year later, they carried out a large-scale project with rats that had HIV virus in basically all of their body cells. In the future, CRISPR therapy might cure HIV and other viruses that hide inside human DNA. CRISPR could also defeat cancer. The first clinical trial for a CRISPR cancer treatment on human patients was approved in early 2016 in the U.S. Later, Chinese scientists announced that they would treat lung cancer patients with immune cells modified with CRISPR in August 2016. Things are picking up pace quickly. With a powerful tool like CRISPR, we may be able to end genetic diseases. Over 3,000 diseases are caused by a single incorrect letter in your DNA. In a decade or two, we could possibly cure thousands of diseases forever. Zach, be quiet. Please be quiet. But all of these medical applications have one thing in common. They are limited to the individual and die with them, except if you use them on reproductive cells or very early embryos. But CRISPR is wanted to be used for so much more. The creation of modified humans, or designer babies. Designer babies will cause irreversible changes to the human gene pool. Editing the genome of a human embryo already exists. In 2015 and 16, Chinese scientists experimented with human embryos and were successful. Despite your personal take on genetic engineering, it will affect you. Modified humans could alter the genome of our entire species because their engineered traits will be passed on to their children and could spread over generations, modifying the whole gene pool of humanity. It will start slowly. The first designer babies will not be overly designed. it's most likely that they will be created to eliminate a deadly genetic disease running in the family. As the technology progresses and gets more refined, more and more people may argue that not using genetic modification is unethical because it condemns children to preventable suffering and death and denies them the cure. But as soon as the first engineered kid is born, a door is open that can't be closed anymore. Early on, self-improvement ideas of regular people will most likely be left alone. But as genetic modifications become more accepted and our knowledge of the genetic code enhances, the temptation will grow. If you make your offspring immune to Alzheimer's, why not also give them an enhanced metabolism? Why not throw in perfect eyesight? How about height or muscular structure or full hair? How about giving your child the gift of extremely high intelligence? What about machine infusions like a Terminator bot? Huge changes will be made as a result of the personal decision of millions of individuals that accumulate. This is a scary but very real slippery slope. Modified humans could become the new standard. It sounds like a sci-fi movie or something out of X-Men when you think about it. But as engineering becomes more normal and our knowledge improves, we could solve the single biggest mortality risk factor, aging. A combination of genetic engineering and other therapy could stop or slow down aging, maybe even reverse it. We know from nature that there are animals immune to aging. Maybe we could just borrow a gene or two for ourselves. Some scientists even think biological aging could be something that eventually just stops being a thing. We would still die at some point, but instead of doing so in hospitals at age 90, we might be able to spend a few hundred years with our loved ones, or so the millionaires' elites think. Can you imagine the price tag for such editing? Research into this is in its beginning stages, and many scientists are skeptical about the end of aging, but it is conceivable the people alive today might be the first to profit from effective anti-aging therapy. All we might need is for someone to convince a smart billionaire to make it their next problem to solve. Could this be you?
Mommy. This one at baseball killed him. Mom.
CNN is quoted as saying, genetically modified babies are highly desirable to help protect people from disease and could be created ethically within 2 years. On a bigger scale, we certainly could solve many problems by having a modified population. Engineered humans might be better equipped to cope with the high energy food, eliminating many diseases civilizations like ours, like obesity. Tests for dozens of genetic diseases or complications have become standard for pregnant women in much of the world. Often the mere suspicion of a genetic defect can lead to the end of a pregnancy, like they do in Europe. Abortion is incredibly personal, but much of the time people are pre-selecting humans based on the medical conditions like Down syndrome for termination. We have to act carefully as we advance the technology and can make more and more selections. CRISPR is powerful. The gene editing might achieve the desired result, disabling a disease, but also might accidentally trigger unwanted changes like an unforeseen code in the DNA structure. Imagine what an oppressive regime like North Korea could do if they embraced genetic engineering. Could a state cement its rule forever by forcing gene editing on their subjects? What would stop a totalitarian regime from engineering an army of modified super soldiers? While this might be a tempting reason to ban genetic editing and related research, that would certainly be a mistake. Banning human engineering would only lead to the science wandering off to a place without jurisdiction, and rules that we are all uncomfortable with. Only by participating can we make sure that the further research is guided by caution, reason, oversight, and transparency. The future that lies ahead of us and the technology is certainly scary, but we have a lot to gain. We could end disease, we could extend our life expectancy by centuries. There's no need to think small when it comes to this topic. What has been insane science fiction is about to become our new reality, a reality full of our opportunities and changes.